I'm not sure what level everybody's at who's joining us today, but if you're a high school student and you might be interested in college, I have some resources for you as well. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. All right, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about Mote Marine Laboratory and where it is that we work. We're an independent nonprofit marine research institution. So we are located, our main campus is in Sarasota, Florida, which is on the west coast of Florida. But we do have some satellite campuses as well. A large one being our International Center for Coral Reef Research and Restoration down in Summerland Key. And then we have an aquaculture park that sits a bit off-site. Oh, and actually I have a map too. Jason's got a great visual here for you. Yep, so this is our main campus here on City Island in Sarasota, Florida. And then, like I was saying, we have another site in Sarasota, Florida as well, which is our aquaculture facility, which is a bit off the water, a little further inland. And then several locations down in the Keys, but again, the primary one being our International Center for Coral Reef Research and Restoration. So what do we do at Mote Marine Laboratory? Well, as I mentioned, we're a research institution. So we do research on a lot of different things. We have about 25 research programs throughout the laboratory. You can see that Jason here is going to scroll some of our research programs: sharks and ray conservation, sea turtle research, manatees, dolphins, as well as things like water quality. So we have an ocean acidification program, as well as chemical ecology, biomedical immunology. So a lot of variety. We're studying a lot of marine life, but then a lot of ecology in the ocean as well. So we're just really trying to understand the health of our oceans, and then we are also working to conserve them for future generations as well. So what we're learning is really important in conservation measures so that we can work to protect the oceans together. So I wanted to talk a little bit about marine biology and what that looks like as a career. I simply Googled marine biologist, and these are some of the top pictures that come up. And I think that this is what a lot of people think of in their mind when they think of, marine biologists. You think, scuba diving in the ocean, working with different marine life, larger marine life like turtles and dolphins, fish and coral reefs, maybe being like a dolphin trainer, which we see here in the bottom. So, a lot of different, types of jobs might come to mind, but a lot of them primarily like in and around the water, right? And again, working with animals that live in the ocean. But here are some actual pictures from Mote Marine Laboratory of marine biologists. And it looks a little bit different, right, than what Google shows us. So yes, while our biologists, do field work and they are out, on the water, and in some cases they are scuba diving on coral reefs, from day to day, their jobs can actually look quite different. Here on the left side of the screen, we see Dr. Emily Hall. She's one of our ocean acidification researchers. So she focuses heavily on the chemistry of our oceans. She's working with some different students and also with some colleagues on her team. So education is a really important part of, a marine biologist. So, if you're taking on interns or teaching students, that is certainly a part of the job as well. And then also collaboration. So she doesn't work by herself, in a laboratory, or she's not by herself scuba diving in the ocean. She's working with a team of people. So communication and teamwork is a really important part of the job as well. We have one of our interns here in the middle picture, and she's working in our lab. You can see she's working with a microscope here. So, while field work is a really important part of the job, and collecting information, out on the water is important, also doing, analysis in the labs is really important as well. So a lot of our researchers also, do lab work in the labs. So if, you think swimming is not for you, you're not really sure about, getting dive certified. So, you're like, I don't know if this job would work for me because I'm really not comfortable in the water. That's okay. A lot of our work doesn't necessarily have to take place in the water. So You know, again, a lot of lab work goes into this field as well. And then finally, the last picture over here is one of our staff members flying a drone out on the beach. So I put this here to kind of represent the different technology that's used throughout this career field. Again, we saw a lot of scuba diving, and again, certainly that is some equipment that some biologists do use, but there's a lot of different types of scientific equipment that is utilized in our field. So, you know, a lot of our biologists and staff get to work with some really cool new technology in order to study our oceans. So this picture right here, we're actually using drones in our red tide research in order to study red tide blooms and how they're affecting, you know, our environments. I know that also our manatee researcher has also started using drones as well. So she can get pictures, you know, overhead of large collections of manatees in different areas. So pretty cool how they're using some new technology in the field. But I want to kind of go beyond marine biologists. I think, again, when people think about working with the ocean, we think of marine biology, but marine science is actually a larger field that, again, encompasses a lot of different type of work. So again, I was talking about biologists working, you know, oftentimes with, you know, marine organisms and different animals to try to learn a bit more about them. But again, we have a large staff at Mote, and so we have some other folks that are working in some different areas, not necessarily studying specific species. We do have an ocean technology program, and so we have engineers on staff that are working with, again, different types of technology and instruments, scientific instruments, in order to study the ocean and the health of the oceans. So right here, this is our, oh, Jason, I'm blanking. Our Breve Buster?
Yeah, Brev Buster. And so that's part of that Slocum glider, which was actually research on technology pioneered, I believe, at Rutgers, but now distributed throughout different universities and other programs like ours. I'll bring up some, this little device gets loaded into a torpedo, and it looks like that. It's an autonomous underwater vehicle.
So engineering is a really important part of being able to study the oceans. You know, if we didn't have certain technologies, we wouldn't be able to collect as much information as we're able to collect. So engineering and instruments are a really important part of our job in our science. It's pretty cool. Yeah, another important piece of ocean conservation is policy. And so we have a Marine Policy Institute at Mote, and we do have a lawyer who actually works on staff with us. A lot of our biologists too work with different lawmakers in order to educate them about what we're learning about the ocean, again, in order to be able to protect it for our futures. So, you know, if you might be interested in government and policy, but you also are interested in, you know, marine science, that's a really cool pairing to be able to put together. And again, you can work on conservation measures with lawmakers in order to protect our oceans for the future. And again, it is a really important job of our biologists and other staff members in order to teach them, again, about their science. So again, part of being a scientist is not only doing your science, but it's also educating people about that science as well. I did mention a little bit about our chemistry programs and our introduce you to Emily Hall, Dr. Emily Hall, our ocean acidification manager. But yeah, chemistry, again, ocean chemistry is a really important part of understanding our oceans and also the health of our oceans and how it affects the organisms in it. So if you're interested in biology, you know, chemistry is also a really important part of, you know, keeping marine life healthy. And then I put geology over here too. This was actually at a picture of some of our interns at USGS. So that's a national agency that is primarily comprised of geologists, and they're studying essentially our shorelines and then also, you know, the different terrain out into the ocean as well. So right here, they're looking at some different core samples that have been taken at beaches around the country and trying to understand the differences in those beaches as well. So, you know, if you might be interested in geology, you know, you can certainly pair an interest in, you know, marine sciences and geology together as well. So if you're interested in marine science, but you're like, where do I start? Now you've introduced me to all these different careers and all these different directions I could go. Where would I even start to think about a job? Well, what do you like? What do you enjoy in school? Maybe what are some of your, favorite classes and coursework? What are you kind of interested in? What do you like to read about? That's, really the place to start. What are your interests? Start thinking about that first. And then you can kind of start to go from there and start doing some research on what different jobs might encompass your interests. So this is a really great resource here. It's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it's actually, oh, I don't know what I just, oh, I clicked the link and I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, you guys. I can get back to my presentation. I'm actually going to give you a preview here. So this is an example of their occupational handbook. And so essentially what you can do is you can type in a job or maybe a certain career field, and it'll bring up some different information about those careers. So for example, typed in, marine science, and something similar came up, a wildlife biologist here, and I'm able to see, some different information about that job. So about, approximately what, an average salary range might be, what type of education is required for that job, and then also what the outlook is for the future. So that might be something to consider as well. When I go through school and finally graduate, that could be maybe like 6-8 years down the road. Is this still going to be a job? Are they still going to be hiring for this job? So, that's certainly something to consider as well. So this might be a good place to kind of start and think about what are some different jobs out there, and what are some more information about those jobs that I can collect. All right, and now this is a very common question that I tend to get. Okay, I'm interested in marine science. I know that I want to, pursue that into the future. Now, where do I go to college? And you might want me to give you the right answer. Where's the best school to go, for marine biology? Tell me that answer. Well, I can't. I'm sorry. There's no right answer to that question. But what I can tell you is there are a lot of schools that provide or offer programs in marine sciences. And this is just a quick snapshot that I collected. There are many, many more, and many, many more, even just in the state of Florida. There are, schools that offer marine science all up and down the East Coast. I know for sure. I know on the West Coast as well. There's plenty. I'm sure there are, down along the South and along the Gulf of Mexico. And there might even be some schools not even close to the ocean that still offer marine science programming. So there's a lot of different opportunities out there, and certainly start doing your research for sure. But I will say, when you are looking for schools, the programs that they offer are not the only thing to consider. What else is important to consider when you're thinking about college? Number one, the cost and how you're going to pay for it. So that is certainly something that you want to think about when you're starting to do some research in schools. You might want to go to the biggest, fanciest school that has like the most well-known marine biology program. But is that cost going to be realistic for you? And maybe there is a more affordable school that's close by that still offers a biology program. And so you might start to consider that. We're going to talk about that in just a second, actually. Scholarships and financial aid are something else to consider. So, maybe you're interested in a school and they have, a really great scholarship program that would make it more cost effective and affordable for you. So that's certainly something to consider as well. Also, something to think about is like going in state versus out of state. Does your state provide scholarships and financial aid that maybe you wouldn't get if you went out of state? So, something else to think about there. As I mentioned, program offerings. So if you're, certain you want to pursue marine science, you would definitely want to look for schools that had marine science programs. Class and campus size are also something really important. Larger state schools tend to have, larger class sizes, especially early on, like freshman, sophomore, entry-level courses tend to have larger class sizes. So if you're thinking that you might, want to get to know your professors a little bit better and kind of have a closer relationship with your professors, you might consider a smaller campus or a smaller school. Distance from home, you might consider what your responsibilities are with your family. If you take care of a loved one and you need to be close to home, the distance that you're going to have to be traveling for school, it's going to be, pretty important to you. And then finally, graduation rates. This is something that when you research schools, you should be able to access that information. You want to make sure you're going to a school that has a pretty high graduation rate, because you want to, be confident that you're going to make it through your courses and be able to graduate. So, that's definitely something to consider for sure. I know this is a lot of different things I've put, into your mind. And so when you're starting again to do your research into schools, I would prioritize this list. What's going to be most important to you? Again, is it like your family and being close to them? Is it the cost of school? Is it that you want to really go to like that marine biology program, that program offering? So, maybe make your list and prioritize it. And then when you start to research schools, you'll know which ones, are checking the right boxes for you. So let's say that the right school for you ends up not having a marine science program, but that's what you really want to do. That's okay. Actually, quite a few members of our staff at Mote who work as marine scientists do not have marine biology undergraduate degrees. A lot of them have more general science degrees, like general biology, general chemistry, maybe environmental science. Because they didn't go to a school that was easily accessible to the water. Some of them are from the Midwest. Some of them are, international, or maybe, again, weren't close to the ocean. So that's okay if you go to a school that maybe doesn't have marine science as a degree program. But what is important is then complementing that degree with experience. And how do you get experience in college? Through internships. So if you have a general biology degree, and then let's say you go pursue internships over your summers when maybe you're not taking coursework, that is really giving you really great hands-on experiences. And then paired with that hands-on experience and then your coursework in biology, you will then be prepared to actually pursue a career in marine science, even if you didn't necessarily get a marine science degree. So that might be something to consider too when you're looking at schools. If there's a school that seems right for you, but they don't have that marine science program, that could still be a great option for you. And then you could start doing some research on some internships or work studies, or maybe even like study abroad. You can go for a semester, maybe to somewhere that does have a marine science program and take some courses there. So, okay, I mentioned internships, but what is an internship exactly? Well, an internship is actually kind of like a temporary job for students where they are learning a career, essentially. So basically, give students the opportunity to get hands-on experiences and work next to people in that career field in order to start practicing for a job. Internships are really valuable because, again, not only are you getting, you're starting to get work experience early on, but you also find out what you like and what you don't like, and that's okay. You could have an internship experience that's amazing, and you're like, this is exactly what I want to do when I grow up, and that confirms, your career path for you. But you could also have an experience where you're like, actually, this is not for me. I don't think I want to pursue this. And what's great is that you're still in your college career to where you could change course relatively easily too. So gives you some great experiences in order to start to direct your path in your career, essentially. So what does an internship maybe look like at Mote or in marine sciences? So some of the skills that we work on with our interns are data collection. So as I mentioned, going out into the field and maybe collecting water samples, collecting organisms to take back with us to the lab in order to do, some studies or data analysis on. Also using scientific instruments as well. So like I mentioned, getting hands-on experience with things, being able to actually like touch and work with certain instruments is really important. Computer programming is also a part of our internship. We have some scientists, again, when they're doing data analysis, they're working with particular like statistical programs and things like that. So that provides interns really great practice early on in that type of work. And then finally, communication. So we have a research experience for undergraduates program, which is a certain type of internship that is very research intensive. Part of that experience is to practice communication as well. And so one of the ways that we do that is that our interns create scientific posters that they actually share with fellow interns and our staff as well to talk about the research that they did through the summer. So I mentioned earlier in the presentation that communication is an important part of marine science, being a marine scientist, because we want to tell people about the research that we're doing. What's the point of learning about something if we're not going to, distribute that information and tell people about it? So in an internship, our interns are starting to get that experience and get that practice in translating their research or their science so that people can understand it. I mentioned some of the experiences here: field work, lab work. Professional development is a really important part of internships as well. So what does that mean? That could be anything from practicing how to write a resume, practicing how to write a cover letter, practicing different applications. So how would you apply to, say, like a job or maybe graduate school? Networking is also a really important part of internships because you're starting to meet professionals in the career field. And it's actually pretty well known that most people get jobs through their network and knowing people rather than just kind of blindly applying for jobs. So the more people that you know in a career field, the better chances you are of getting a job in that field. And so getting an internship, early on in your career, meeting a lot of people, getting your name out there is really going to be beneficial when you start to look for jobs then in the future. And then finally, having a mentor is a really important part, especially if you're interested in pursuing science. There's also been a lot of research around mentor relationships with students, and it's found that having a strong mentor as a student really helps you succeed in a science field into your career. So in an internship, you are likely working directly one-on-one with a scientist or someone who would be considered your mentor. And so that's, you're really starting to build a strong foundation and relationship with a particular person in the field, which is really beneficial. They can provide you letters of recommendation in the future. They might introduce you to people who can offer you a job in the future. They also are just there as a means of support. Science can be really hard sometimes. And, sometimes we all struggle in it. And so to have somebody to go to and say, I'm really just having a hard time. And maybe that person says, I've been there too, and I've experienced that. That's really helpful. And so that, that a lot of times that's the role of a mentor as well, is to just kind of like be there and be a support for their mentee. So I wanted to tell you a little bit specifically about our internships at Mote and what they look like. And so these are all pictures of interns working at our laboratory. And you can see that they are all hands-on. So nobody's getting coffee or, sitting in the corner or anything like that. Our interns are working directly next to their mentors and other staff members, and they are doing, the work that's done at our institution. And so I mentioned, data analysis, data collection. A lot of these folks are, some of them are out in the field, again, collecting information. These folks down here at the bottom are working in, one of our coral tanks. So they're maintaining our corals, making sure they're staying nice and healthy for some of the research that we're doing. So So our research interns get most of the experiences that I kind of already talked through earlier about internships. So it's just kind of cool just to see some of the students in action here. But we do offer internships outside of research as well. So we are a laboratory, but we are also a public aquarium. So if you're down in Sarasota, check us out. Mote Aquarium, you can come and visit us. A lot of what we showcase in the aquarium is local marine life, and especially those which we are doing research on to better understand. So we have a lot of different Florida species and sharks, and then we also have some mammals here. We have our otters, we have sea turtles, manatees, all sorts of different marine life that you can come and visit and see. So of course, we have a large staff that works with those animals in order to maintain their habitats and care for them. And so we offer internships in that career as well. So if you are interested in maybe being a dolphin trainer or an animal trainer, or maybe an aquarium biologist, caring for fish or larger species like sharks or something like that, we offer internships in that career field. So this again are some of our interns working in the aquarium. And again, you can see they work directly with the animals. They're hands-on, they're feeding, they're working on training. Yeah, it's a pretty important job to take care of all of our animals in our aquarium. So this is some great experience for these students here. We also have a really large education department and team. So I mentioned for scientists, education is a really important part of their job because they are translating their research and trying to make people understand the importance of their research and again, conserving the ocean. And so in education department, that's our job too. And so we're helping the scientists to convey their research and reach all different sorts of audiences. So in our education department at Mote, we start with pre-K students and we go basically everybody. Everybody can be a learner in our education programs. We offer programming for students as well as people who are retired and they've already gone through their career, but they're still interested in learning too. So so we try to teach as many different people as possible and as many different audiences as possible. So these are some of our educators here that are teaching some different students. So we do have like summer camps on site and different education programs on site. But Jason here has a really important job because he's in charge of our virtual programs. And so for people who can't come to Mote, like you guys right now, we're able to talk to you and tell you a little bit more about Mote and what we're doing. And so that's a really important job as well. And so again, we're trying to reach people all around the country and even internationally as well to tell them about Mote and what we do. And again, the importance of conserving our oceans. So we take interns through our education department as well. I like to say, if you're interested in education, you don't have to stick to the classroom necessarily. There's this whole other branch of education called informal education, which is basically working outside the classroom. And most of the times, in an environment that is in the classroom. And so, if you're interested in education and you really like marine science, you could certainly pair those in a classroom setting as well, but there's also this informal branch too, where you could be working at an aquarium, working at a laboratory, working at an outdoor education school, and maybe teaching like in the water with the actual, marine life, which is pretty cool. And then we have a whole bunch of other staff that work at Mote who basically support our scientists and our biologists and our aquarium staff and our educators, and they're doing a lot of heavy lifting too. And they're very interested in marine science and ocean conservation, but maybe they have a different skill set that's not necessarily, a science or STEM career, but they still want to, help us again support the oceans. And so we have, PR and communication folks. We have a library on site with a librarian. This is a picture of one of our graphic design interns here working on a flyer. So we actually take interns in these programs as well. again, for students that, might be pursuing a different type of career, but might still have an interest in marine science too. So, so that's kind of cool. You can kind of, maybe if you have an interest that's not STEM necessarily focused, you could maybe still kind of incorporate marine science in some capacity.
We have about 5 minutes left, Gina.
Oh, do we? Okay. I'm going to skip through this because we already kind of talked through our internships.
I put some link into the chat space as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So this is just a little bit more. I wanted to leave you guys with some research that you could do yourself, again, on careers, and then also colleges and things like that. So this is a Princeton Review career test. So you can kind of go through and see what your interests are and your skill set and things like that. And it might give you some ideas about some different careers that might be suited for you. And then Marine Careers by Sea Grant. This is a really great resource that I pass on to our college interns. So if you want to start checking it out now, that's great. Even to just get some ideas of like what types of careers are out there and what, who's hiring for what. So go ahead, check it out, marinecareers.net there. And you can start to see some different job postings. And again, what types of jobs are out there, and then also what they're requiring for those jobs. So again, what types of education might you have to have for a certain, type of job, and yeah, give you some a good idea there. They're a great one to follow. All right. And then, what can you start to do now? So let's say you're a high school student now and you're like, okay, you told me about college, you told me about college internships, but like, what can I start doing now? Well, you can actually start to get hands-on experience as a high school student. Start to look for different volunteer experiences. So maybe you're located near a zoo or aquarium that takes high school volunteers. Maybe you're located with us down in Sarasota. We take high school volunteers over the summer. Start to check, you can check us out now. We're taking applications for our summer high school volunteer program. Maybe you're not necessarily close to like an aquarium or close to the coast. You're like, what could I find? Well, maybe you have a nature center nearby that you could start to volunteer at, or maybe even like a vet's office. Sometimes vets will take high school students as volunteers in their offices. So, start to do some research locally around you and see what types of volunteer opportunities might be out there for high school students. Start getting your foot in the door and getting some good hands-on experience in the field of maybe biology or STEM in general. And then start to get engaged. So there are quite a few youth organizations that engage high school students in marine sciences. This is just one. The Youth Ocean Conservation Summit is an annual summit that's hosted by one of Mote's former high school interns. I think we're in our 11th year now for that. And basically it's a full day of professional development for youth. You don't have to be in high school. You can actually be any age. And basically we walk through how to conduct a conservation project. So you get to hear from different speakers and different people about, their knowledge and their skills, and then apply that eventually to maybe your own conservation project that you can conduct as a student. So that's, again, just one example. You can Google marine science, high school student, and I'm sure there are other organizations that'll come up that you can start to get involved with as well. But again, the earlier you can start getting involved and start getting experiences, the better.
We have a couple questions coming in too, if you're ready for those.
Sure.
So Sarah was wondering, for the competitive internship programs at Mote, like the research experience for undergraduates, what are the biggest recommendations for standing out or having to compete in that area prior to applying?
Okay, so graduate, okay. Let's see.
One is make sure you read the directions.
Yes.
That's always a good one. And you want to hit every single point that's recommended in the application, and don't leave anything out. That's the easiest way to get past a lot of the hurdles.
Yes. Yeah, I would say that for sure. I think I would give the same advice I would give to undergraduates as well, which is really to focus on the statement of interest. We actually just had a mentor training yesterday with some of our researchers, and we were kind of talking through intern applications actually. And we were talking about the importance of a statement of interest, because that's where you're starting to you're able to convey your passionate interest for a certain topic, and why you want to be in that position. And so with the graduate students, I would say that like reading some of the research papers by the researchers who are taking students, you can if it's at Mote, you can access those through our website to really get a good idea about their research and what they're studying. Because if you come for the summer, that's what they're going to be doing. So the more that you can convey your interest in that, and then your knowledge about that topic, that really would make you probably a strong candidate. So I would say start there, really focus on that statement of interest, and do some research on the mentor you want to work with.
Yep, that's a great advice for checking out Google Scholar or a similar website and actually read the actual research, or go to ResearchGate and find out what they've published.
Yeah.
And what about the best way to get involved with the education programs at Mote?
Ooh, that's a great one. Jason, you actually might have some insight on that too.
Yeah, so now's a great time to get involved with marine science education. It's usually around this time of the year, starting December to about this time of the year, that a lot of places like the Ocean Institute, I'm sure, and Mote are looking for seasonal staff, which is a great way to get your foot in the door, because we're all ramping up for summer camp time. And we've had a lot of interns come through the program and kind of get a feel for if this is the kind of experience that they want to do. Do they want to be a teacher? And it's literally a great way to get your feet wet to figure that out. And some of them have figured out, no, this is not what I want to do. I want to stay with research, but others have changed and wanted to become teachers as a result of it. So start looking out. I put a couple of links into the chat space. The 7Cs job board always has internship and student opportunities. Great place to look at. Earth Echo as well. And like Gina said, keep your ear to the search for the kind of keywords that would bring those opportunities to you. And then, yeah, lots of internship opportunities, both in research and science, but also in education. And so don't neglect to look for those if that's something that you're interested in.
There's one more question from the app. If it's possible, what are ways that we can connect with Mote from out of state?
Oh, that's a great question. So I run the virtual programs. A lot of that is geared for K through 12th grade, and a lot of them are on demand. So teachers or schools will ask to connect for us to us, and then I'll come in, or one of our educators will come in, and we'll talk about the different kinds of research that we do at the Mote, shark research, as well as all the other programs. And those are kind of like structured virtual field trips. And then occasionally I'll also offer Show programs, which are kind of like one-off programs. I was able to connect with a couple of folks in January, and those are on a case-by-case scheduled basis. And then we also have our social media accounts. So Mote has a Facebook page where you can find out about different activities and goings on. And then we also have one just for the education programs too, on Instagram and YouTube. So those are great places to find out more as well. Gina, you have any ideas about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much, those are some great resources. Yeah, how to find more information about connecting.
And Gina's a great resource too. I put our links into the chat at the very beginning. And so if you do have questions about Mote, in particular the internship programs, she's a great resource to contact about that.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you again, Jason.
Thank you.
Gina. Don't forget, attendees, everyone who came in for this presentation, to use those resources that were posted. This was really excellent. Hopefully you guys will join us after lunch and view additional presentations, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you once again, guys.
And I do have one more research resource I can share with you. And we have a Flipgrid page. So if you've ever used Flipgrid before, you can ask me anything about the ocean. Simply go to flipgrid.com/CTrack. And you can leave me a video voicemail question through Microsoft's secure website at flipgrid.com/CTrack. That's available 24/7. We'll research the answer and try to get it back to you as quickly as possible.
Thank you guys again. All right, goodbye.
Bye.